just tell us sort of how you came to realise that you had a problem.
It was through a very nagging friend at the time who had had prostate cancer 15 years earlier. And every time we saw him, he would say, "Have you been checked?" And my answer would be, "I don't have any symptoms." But one fortuitous Friday night, we dined with him. He nagged me about had I been checked. And next morning, coincidentally, I had a doctor's appointment for an unrelated issue. So sitting in the doctor's surgery, I just said, "I'm a man who's past 60 years old now. Should I be getting checked?" And he said, "Would you like me to do that now for you?" Basically, which was quite a rare event.
I should say that Paul was just holding up his forefinger. and look, I mean, us blokes, we don't like to think about that sort of thing, do we? And I mean, were you vaguely uncomfortable about saying, "Well, yeah, okay, go on"?
It took me by surprise. It wasn't what I was expecting early on a Saturday morning, but he was very decent about it. He'd got the thing over and done with. The lube could have been warmer, but apart from that, the whole thing was quite painless.
I'm looking at the three blokes opposite me through the gallery, and they're all slightly wincing.
Yes. I can assure you I was at the time too. So at that point, it was, he said, "Oh, you've got a little bit of graininess there. We'll get your PSA test done," which they did, and it came back at 3.7, which was pretty low for that time. So they said they keep an eye on things. And 2 years later, by chance, I was back at the GP. Nobody had kept an eye on anything. I happened to say, "Look, you're supposed to be keeping an eye on this prostate issue." So they checked again. PSA was low, but there was a significant bulge on the prostate this time. So it was off to the local hospital, scan, biopsy, and the diagnosis of tumour on the left-hand side.
So you hadn't felt any symptoms at all at that point?
None whatsoever. No. This is the thing. When the GPs, the second time I saw the GP, it was that statement, "Have you got any symptoms?" "No." "Oh, well, then come back when you have." Well, of course, when you have, in most cases, the cancer's now advanced. So it's the screening programs that are coming in are very, very timely, because catching men before they get the symptoms coming along and become more advanced enables them to have the same treatment I did. And that's the story within the David Cameron story at the moment, in the treatment that he got. Because he was found early, he had a focal treatment, which means they've treated literally just the tumour. Everything else is intact and working.
So how did the treatment work? I mean, what did you have done? I mean, is it what whenever we think of cancer, we automatically think of chemotherapy or radiotherapy?
Chemotherapy is when you've got advanced prostate cancer and it's come out of the actual prostate. So I was offered surgery to remove the prostate completely at the local hospital, or I was offered 5 weeks, 5 days a week of radiotherapy. Now, both of those come with significant side effects, sexual dysfunction, urinary incontinence and such like. Didn't appeal to me that much, so I bought time by opting for the radiotherapy, which would have been 6 months down the road, and explored options. Unfortunately, I found an amazing professor at Imperial College, Professor Hashim Ahmed, who's been on TV and radio all this week talking about the Transform trial. And through him, it's an ultrasound treatment, basically. So they insert a probe into your back end, they fire ultrasound beams, a bit like a magnifying glass on a leaf. It only forms heat at the point where they all converge. And that pecked away. Having now sat in on procedures and watched it, it's like an old Space Invaders game, almost with a green screen, and they're pecking away at this tumour in 3D until it disappears. A small margin, and everything else is left intact. So I had the procedure in the day. It was an hour and a half in theatre. Came home that night with the catheter, and a week later, the catheter came out, and it was like the whole thing hadn't happened.
And so now there's no consequence from it?
No, I'm 7 years on, and if I can give an example, when I first went in, I didn't get up in the night to go to the loo, which I was quite proud of at 60 years old. I'm 7 years on, had prostate cancer and treatment, I still don't get up in the night. So that's a raging endorsement for this form of treatment.
And you formed Prostate UK. Was that because no one else was advocating for
exactly that? Yeah.
Why would that be? I mean, given the proliferation of all sorts of different cancer charities, why had no one thought to launch one on this?
And we're 7 years on, and I'm still basically beating that drum on my own at the moment. So it's quite a strange thing. All right, I've got the support of some of the absolute top urologists in the country. Our patrons are Professor Ahmed and Professor Emberton at UCLH. But it's beating on the door of the DOH and the NHS to say this is a cheaper option at the point of delivery. It's better for the lifestyle outcomes of the men. And of course, and as in my case, there's been no support needed by the NHS ongoing. I haven't needed pads or sexual support or anything of that nature. So it's kind of a no-brainer. But 7 years on, we've now got 2 more units in the country. There's between 5 and 7 active units in the whole country at the moment, and they're all South-centric.
So we have quite a lot of 60-plus-year-old men listening to this programme right now. I suspect that the majority of those have never even thought to have a prostate cancer test. What's your message to them?
You need to get checked. It's the first step. If you come out clear, then that's great. You've got the result you want. If you're discovered with an early case of prostate cancer, early to intermediate, you're putting yourself right in that zone where you can get the lower, less invasive treatments. You're not having to rush off and have the invasive treatments. That again is another one of the arguments. The NHS is still taking men with the same diagnosis I had, who suit focal treatments, and are effectively over-treating them by taking them off and giving them the same treatments as men with advanced prostate cancer. And that's the battle as a charity that we've been trying to win for the last 7 years, and are still going to carry on fighting till we do.
Well, please do. But, I mean, one thing I will say is that I don't know whether it was the last time or the time before that we talked about this issue on the programme. It was several years ago. And we were absolutely deluged with calls, which in a way I was slightly surprised at, because I thought, is this a subject that people are going to want to talk about on the radio? But boy, did they want to talk. And 3, 4, 5 months after that, I had at least 3 men get in touch with me by email to say, if I hadn't been listening to your programme that night, I wouldn't have got myself tested. No. And I did get myself tested. And that's the reason that I'm writing this email now, because had I not done so, I would be dead.
Yeah, I can actually say from the last time I appeared on your show with you talking about that, there are 2 men that came out of that show that night. It was some weeks later when they'd gone off and had their little checkup done and they got the results, their PSA, but they came back and said, we heard you on the Iain Dale show, and we've come to see if you can help us. And we could help, one we couldn't.
And they say that commercial radio doesn't do public service broadcasting. Well, I think that is absolute proof that we do, and we take it very, very seriously.